Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Tales of Tamriel. We are glad to have you back with us as we continue our journeys through Tamriel. It's an exciting time for us here at Tales of Tamriel because this is the game we have been waiting for since, well, I don't know, I heard the announcement back in May of 2012, and yeah, now it's finally here, and we get to see Tamriel in all of its glory. So, here we are, beginning our 11th episode. So let's get into this and introduce the hosts that I have with me this evening. I am your main host, Dejelos. I am the blacksmithing obsessed Nord. Joining me this evening, we have Thais, the what do I have here? The Cahetan flu survivor and member of Dark Brotherhood. Also, everyone, her favorite sentence is, all the shamans love to carry and wield their staves. How are you doing, Thais?
Now, I thought we discussed this. It's correctly pronounced shaman and staves. We covered this already.
Dictionary.com differs with that opinion. So.
All right, well, Dictionary.com did say it was shaman, but you are correct on the staves. Anyway, I'm feeling pretty good this evening. You know, I kind of almost, I'm saying 98% over my flu, so that's a good thing. So I'm joining you guys tonight with lots and lots of energy, and I'm excited that I've been playing the game for most of the week when I wasn't dying and sleeping in bed.
Yeah, we had a good time, even though she was sick, and she was a trooper. All right, moving on, we have Krabby with us, master of mud crabs, and not afraid to show his failures on our live streams. How are you doing this evening, my good man?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm so happy to be streaming this game right now.
Awesome. Let's see here. I also want to announce that we do have a new person who's going to be trying out and working with us on the Tales of Tamriel crew. You should probably be seeing him in the next couple weeks. He will be doing PvP streams on the Tales of Tamriel Twitch page, as well as probably writing up some stuff for our website. So his name's Flatar, and he's going to be an awesome guy and an awesome asset to the Tales of Tamriel crew. So we'll have to get him on here one week just so to guest on the show and kind of give us what he's been doing and things of that nature. So if you actually see him in game or anything like that, make sure you wave at him and try not to kill him in PvP, because it's probably being streamed and we don't want to look terrible. So thank you for that. Anyway, I want to thank everyone else for joining us this evening on this live show, and all the listeners out there on the podcast land who listen to us afterwards. Say hello to the chat room. I love that chat room's here and actually came out again for another week. That's awesome. As a note to anyone who can't join us live, you can now find the recorded streams on Twitch TV, our Twitch TV channel, as well as on the YouTube channel. All audio versions and stuff like that are on iTunes, Stitcher, your favorite other podcast app, however you find us. You can download the MP3 directly off the website if you desire. All right. Also, one final thing before we get started. I want to take a few minutes to announce the official guild for Tales of Tamriel podcast. We had several members of our little community. They've been asking us if we were having plans to actually have a Tales of Tamriel guild. At the time, I was replying that no, we didn't really have any plans for a guild. But after speaking to several of our fans and the different co-hosts we have here, I decided to open up the Friends and Family Guild that I had created to anyone who wishes to join us and chat with us in-game. As of right now, the guild has no official purpose. It is just, as I mentioned above, a Friends and Family Guild where you'll be able to chat with the host of the show and other fans and friends of the show. You know, we get group up and do stuff like that. But no scheduled events yet. Once the game has been out for a little while, we will be looking for guest hosts to come onto the show and share their tales with us on Tales of Tamriel. Naturally, we will be looking from within the guild first for people to bring on the podcast from time to time, so we can get more of a community involvement with the show. So if you have a free guild spot, there's 5 of them, and you want to join the Tales of Tamriel Guild, just whisper or send an in-game mail if I'm not online to @Agelos for a guild invite, or Krabby at his, which he'll tell you what it is later. Or I don't think we've had you didn't have the name change yet, right?
I am not letting anybody know how they can reach me in game yet until I can change my user ID, because right now it's kind of embarrassing and I just don't want to share it with anybody.
How does that work anyway? Like, can you just change? Like, do you just fill out a form and you can just change it?
No, actually, I have been in contact with the support team for about a week now, trying to get it changed, and I've just been hitting roadblock after roadblock, and this person responds, and then this person responds, and they're all asking the same thing, but no one's doing anything about it. So I'm hoping it happens soon, so I can announce how to reach me in game, because right now I just don't want to tell anybody.
Right. Yeah, you can actually contact support, and once you prove the account's yours, I didn't have any issue changing my email or anything of that nature, which is essentially the same task. I must have just got the good support people, and you got the new people, I guess. I don't really know. But generally, their support's been really good. So once she changes that, we'll announce that for people. Oh, and for those interested, the guild does represent the Evanhart Pact, if that matters to you, because as of this time of writing this little show notes, all the hosts are proud members of the Evanhart Pact. Blood for the Pact. Blood for the Pact. Although
Blood for the Pact.
Blood for the Pact. Although we do not have plans to actively take part in the Alliance War while under the banner of the Tales of Tamriel Guild, as there are far larger guilds with dedicated leadership that are focused on PvP. They can handle that kind of stuff. Perhaps one day, if we get people who are interested in leading these events, we may promote up officers to run scheduled events within the guild. But as for right now, no scheduled events in this guild. If you still have an interest in joining to chat with us and, tell us, group up with the Tales of Tamriel crew, don't hesitate to contact us. All right, now that is out of the way, let's get on with the show now. All right, moving into game news. Tales of Tamriel, there it is. Sorry, I lost my place, everyone. Sorry about that. The Tamriel Chronicle issue number 52 was released. Naturally, great stuff is in there. I love that the community does that. As well as the official show going through and creating that list for us. So if you haven't, check that out. Find some cool events and different podcasts and vodcasts and fan sites out there. Definitely check it out and see what's out there. I'm not going to go too much into that because there's not a lot to say. All right, moving on to the next one, early access. A success? Question mark. What do you guys think? Let's start with you, Thais. How do you think the early access and official launch has gone?
I think it's gone fantastic. I enjoyed being a part of the early access because it allowed me to immerse myself in the game before it was run over by all the other players. There was just, there was a few players, so you were able to see a lot of the world without it being cluttered and confused with all the other players, and that I really enjoyed. It just gave me a chance to kind of be by myself while I explored. And the game launch has been very, very good. You and I have done all of our exploring together, and there were only 2 quests that we found that were bugged, and that's it. Everything else worked perfectly. We were able to open every single box that we found, open every chest, and explore any land and kill any mob we encountered, except for 2 quests. So I'd say it's been a great success.
Yeah, stupid Fate Stealer. Hate him. Krabby, what do you think?
I think it went. I think the early access, / launch, it's been good. I feel bad for the 3-day early access people because they got really shafted because of that. There was that one day with a 13-hour maintenance, and then the day the game released, there was another 5 4 or 5 hour maintenance. So they kind of got shafted a little bit, but I think for the most part it's been great. I mean, I've had no game-breaking issues. The service itself has been fine. I haven't had any lag, like nothing. Like it's quite ridiculous. I mean, this is just crazy.
I was just gonna mention that no lag. I have not normally with a launch the servers are kind of glitchy a little bit. No lag anywhere. Just absolutely no lag, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, I'm sure people in Australia might have some lag because they're really far from the servers, but on the East Coast over here, it's pretty awesome.
I just typed out to the chat room to see what they thought of the launch and how they thought of it. Let's see here. I'm going to mark this down. The one, I did notice the servers went down on, I wrote it down, 4-1 at 12:30 p.m. for an unscheduled maintenance, where they just up and took it down. That was before any of the other. That was only like a 2-hour maintenance, I think. It wasn't super long. Yeah, no quest bugs other than Fate Stealer. There's been very few. I didn't have a problem with Fate Stealer in beta. That was the funny part. I had a problem with the Brothers of Strife quest. That one used to get bugged out during beta, but that one ran fine now. I'm trying to think. Otherwise, there hasn't been a lot of issues. Launch day went well. I got in. Servers didn't go down. Servers weren't laggy. I'm still not experiencing lag. Yeah, I think it went really well. So I would say early access was a success, but even what you said is the 3-dayers lost a day, but technically we all gained a day because they extended the early access till today, the 6th, instead of the 5th.
That's true.
So they actually gave us another day of early access, and that was one of the things I think both Thais and I were a little scared when we came home, because we came home, or this morning I woke up, I got online, I think I said hi to the people in the guild. I think maybe you were on, I can't remember. I know Kipster was for sure. And I'm like, hey, everyone, okay. I kicked off some of my researches because, as I said earlier, I am the blacksmithing obsessed Nord. And then I went to go take a shower, and I knew I was going to get auto-logged off. But when I got back, I woke up my wife because she left me a nice little note saying to wake her up at 8 o'clock today so we could continue our adventures. So I woke her up, we came over, and we got the password is wrong or your user account's wrong, and it would not allow us in. And it was...
Wait, I have to say something. You always wake up around 5:30, 6 o'clock. So when you woke up and logged in game, there were actually people online?
Yeah, there were 2 or 3 people in the guild. I mean, as of now, as of this recording, we only have 8 or 9 people in the guild because we only announced it yesterday and only on the website.
So there's people who are as crazy as you are and wake up at the butt crack of dawn. I cannot do that.
I woke up at 5:40 this morning by accident.
See? You're the oddball with staying up till 4. The rest of us wake up early. We just play early too. So,
I had that weird issue too. I tried logging in this morning, and it only happened once. It said invalid information, and I knew I typed it in right. And then I tried again immediately right after, and it worked. And I was like, oh, that could have been bad.
what time did you try that at, by the way? I'm just curious.
Probably around 6 o'clock.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
that was a little early, because I know it was about 7:30 when I tried logging in. I was fine. I went to Reddit, and I went to the Tamriel Foundry forums, and I found a bunch of other people were having issues. It looked like what they were trying to do was they tried to kick off the billing cycle today for people, which is actually what we were kind of scared about because we still have not received our game boxes. We're supposed to get them tomorrow. Yeah, GameStop and their UPS shipping.
Well, I'm pretty sure there's a grace period, though.
The grace period was till today, so I've imagined we won't be. Well, I have to go back to work tomorrow, unfortunately, but we won't be able to log on until we put those things in. I actually thought they were going to cut us off today because when you logged in, it said that the early access period has ended and that you have to log in and set up your subscription thing. But if you haven't gotten your game yet and you ordered a physical edition, there's nowhere on the website to set up a subscription because technically you don't own the game. Not
So
yet.
the way it happened when I did it was I entered my game code, and literally right after you enter your game code, it has you set up a subscription plan.
Right. Yeah.
So-
Well, as of now, we don't technically own the game. There's no proof we purchased the game yet until we get that game code. But after I kind of about 9 o'clock, I was like, yeah, we're done playing until we get our games on Monday, which kind of hurt a little bit, but whatever. But it actually let us back in after about half hour, so we've been playing a little bit today, but I have a feeling they'll cut us off eventually. All right. Other than that, I seen a lot of hate on the forums about this particular thing, which I really don't get. Really, honestly, they got to start charging, and any game does that. People were complaining about the only being able to set up recurring or something like that, but every MMO only lets you set up recurring unless you use a game time card. You set up recurring, and then you stop after it bills. You stop the payment. That's every MMO. That's not unique. Some people are like, "Oh, ZeniMax is terrible for doing this." I'm like, I really don't think the people have been playing MMOs before because no MMO allows you to do anything other than recurring. It doesn't say here, put $15 and we're done. They tell you to go out and get a game card if you want to do that. Otherwise, everything is recurring.
The issue that the people had was the fact that all right, this is what it now. I don't know if either of you have a PayPal account, or even if you do, if you remember what even happened when you signed up for it, but now, as an example, when you sign up for a PayPal account and then you add your bank or credit card to a PayPal account, it will either deposit or charge a couple of cents to make sure the account is real. The thing with the ZeniMax thing was they would actually charge you the full $15 as an authorization charge, then refund it to you. I think that's the big thing people were kind of freaking out about. But at the same time, I can kind of see why people get freaked out about that, because you could potentially overdraw if it is a bank account. But they do refund it to you though, right away. It's like a test, so.
Right. Well, everyone does that. Banks do that, but yeah, you're right. It's normally only a couple cents. But yeah, I guess I could see the problem with a bank account or a PayPal that's tied to it. But credit card, you won't even see it on your statement. You'll get the statement, go, hey, I was charged $15. Oh, look, I was credited $15.
Yeah.
You won't even notice it till you get your statement. But I don't know. I guess with the option paying with PayPal, it might. I didn't even think about that. But every MMO sets up, if you don't use a game time card, you set up recurring. There's no, here, pay me $15 and be done. No one does that. It'd be nice if they did, but no one does. So go anywhere. Go to, not Rift anymore, but go to Warcraft. Go to Ultima Online. Go to Dark Age of Camelot. They still have a subscription fee. Try it. You can only set up recurring. There is no one-time kind of thing. All right. Well, we beat that horse pretty dead. All right. Next thing is there was a news article, which actually this is a nice segue, where Pete Hines confirms that the Elder Scrolls Online subscription fee was a mutual decision between Bethesda Softworks and ZeniMax Online. I forget, was it VG24 is the one that had it? I can't remember exactly. The article, in turns, it was a interview type article where they went back and forth talking about the game and why they went with the subscription fee. And even, Pete Hines was defending it, going, this is the area that we wanted for the game. This is how we thought the game should be. And I forget what was one thing they said about one of the tidbits that was in this article that I thought was interesting was they asked about, are you going to offer any kind of free trial period? And he kind of was sly about his answer, but he was saying, Well, normally people don't start offering free trial periods right at the beginning of a game launch. And he's like, if you do, you do free trials when you try to get people into your game. Um, if after the first couple months we have, and he said like 10 million players, then why do we need free trials? We already got 10 million players. It's when you're down to about 100,000 that you want to bring those people back in. That's when you offer a free trial. Did anyone else see this article? I wish I would have wrote down the link on it, but I saw it on.
I did not see it, but I'm really curious because I want to read that.
I'll try to find the link and I'll send it to you. It was an interesting little article. Not a lot of details in it. They were just asking about, why didn't you go free to play? Why didn't you do this? And to be honest, I appreciate Pete Hines was like, free to play would not work for our model. Free to play is not the right choice for everyone. For every game. It's like we didn't want to have to base our content on what we could force people to buy through microtransaction store as our only source of income. So, and I'm a fan of subscription games. I really am. I like them because here's the thing: when you're a subscription game, they actually when they release their quarterly income report and stuff like that, if they're a publicly traded company, I can't remember if ZeniMax is. I don't know if they are.
They are not.
They are not. Well, normally they share this information so you can see where the game sits and stuff like that. But this also pushes them to get more people into their game, because if they see that their subscription numbers are low, their board of directors and stuff, their shareholders are going, wait, you promised us more money for this. We're investing in your product and you're not delivering. So this really kind of puts a fire under the bums, if you will, to make sure that they keep those subscription numbers, that they get more people to come in. And it's just overall, they can afford to keep a staff on hand at all times rather than having to do mass layoffs and things like that when the game comes out. All right. We're going to move off that one. Krabby, if you're in a safe spot at this point, this is the part where I wanted you to pull up those images, if you could.
Yep.
This isn't official news, but there was a person on Reddit. Their name is, my name is Gawns. So thank you, my name is Gawns. On Reddit, he created a nice screenshot gallery showing the locations of the towns in Cyrodiil and their comparison in the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. So Krabby is going to work on getting this up on the stream.
Well, I have it up right now. There is the stream delay.
Okay, excellent. I'm looking at the stream now, so I'm just trying to look for it. All right. We'll go into this real quick as I pull it up here. All righty. I'm just checking the stream, and I'm still not seeing on the stream, but I could just be crazy. Chat room is the thing on the stream that you guys can see. Let me get that. Hey, babe, could you type in the chat room to see if they can see this, and I'll move on. All right. First off, they went into and they're showing us Ravel, and they're showing the differences between the Elder Scrolls Online and Oblivion. I see it. All right. Sorry, everyone. We're kind of doing this all at one live shot here because I'm not seeing it on the stream. All right. First off, now they're showing us here in this comparison map that Ravel in Elder Scrolls Online is almost identical to that of Oblivion's. It's an interesting note that this town didn't undergo any or many physical changes. And I'm looking at the map right now, and just judging. Okay, I see what they did there. All right. It looks like pretty much a lot of the open ocean, if you will, is surrounding the city now. And in the actual game itself, or on the game map, I can see the rivers. But generally, it does look almost identical. It looks like the castle keep on the eastern half is a little... Okay, good. People can see it on the stream. It's a little bit... It's not there anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like, the three islands are, like, identical. I mean, this is actually this is a really good translation. I mean, Keep in mind it's also what 800 years later, so
Yeah, yeah. This happened 800 years in the past, so of course the town will change. The town could be gone almost completely. Um, Thace, do you have that image that you can pull up on the screen so you can look at it as well? It's in the show notes. All right. All right. We're going to move down to the next town now, Bruma. I love Bruma. According to the map, there's not a lot. Bruma is much smaller than that in Oblivion. It seems the main keep and exterior walls were always in place, and the city itself grew around it prior to the events of Oblivion. Um, as you can see in the map, you can see the main keep walls, as well as it looks like the little beginning of the circle is starting to be built up into the road. But there's not a lot of other buildings. It looks like in the southern half there's that one big building still there, but otherwise that's about it.
yeah, it doesn't look a whole lot like the other one. It almost went from a village with a couple of walls to like a straight up city. I mean, yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll move down to the next one real quick. Cheydinhal. Cheydinhal and ESO is almost identical. That is Oblivion as well. No major changes. I'm trying to look at it here. I see the river going through it. I see the bridge. It looks like in Oblivion they finished completing the wall on the southern half as well as the northern half. Maybe there's a gate or a wall there. So that's kind of interesting. I see the one big guild hall on the eastern bank and a bunch of the smaller little houses and towns along there. But it looks like the houses along the eastern wall got built sometime afterwards. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, this is like even the houses on the left-hand side are almost the exact same too. I mean, this is this. I can't wait to go to these in game.
Oh, I know. I was looking for these when I was in the beta, but I actually didn't get a chance to go to them. I wasn't sure, like, because they're not really marked on the map as the towns. Now, I know there are quests and stuff, but there's not, like when you hover out, there's not a big icon or something saying this is a town.
Right.
It's just kind of out there and about. All right, moving down the list, we got Coral. Coral and ESO is noticeably smaller. Yeah. The unique circle in the road seems to have become the town's focal point, much closer to the events of Oblivion. Okay, so yeah, if you're looking at the map now, you can see the circle, that little circle, the square. I guess it would be still considered a town square, even though it's a circle. Is off the road, and all the buildings are to the western half of the road.
It's funny. It looks like in Oblivion, the city just grew to the right. Because now look at the big building in Oblivion, number 12, I think. That's actually that looks like the same exact building in Elder Scrolls Online. Cause see how the circle is like right next to the same side.
Yeah, yeah. I see that as probably being the town hall, if you will. Most towns generally start with a town hall and build out from around there, and that's what it looks like is happening. But
and they just built a keep off to the east side.
Well, yeah, at times of ESO, directly north of that, there probably is a keep. I would imagine that keep was destroyed somewhere in the 800 years between now and Oblivion, and it looks like it was rebuilt off that one road over there that you can see. Because there's nothing there now, and of course, looks like they fortified and built a wall by the time of Oblivion coming in.
Right.
All right. The last one is a map comparison. In case you're skeptical that these towns are in question, I've drawn a map with lines to mark it with the respective locations, and they are, I'm going to XSplit, near identical. It should have noted that Skingrad should in all rights be included in ESO, but it is missing. Fort Velatris in ESO, and that is noted to be east of Skingrad. Okay, so Skingrad is not appearing
Yeah,
in.
like Skingrad literally should be right, like on the very edge. But
Mm-hmm.
I could see, you know what? I could see them adding like an expansion or something that adds that left part or the southern part of Cyrodiil back.
Oh, I
I
imagine
mean,
they will, but I doubt it will be anything to do with the Alliance
yeah,
War. I think that will probably be a adventure zone or a, more PvE related zones because you're not gonna. The reason why they probably didn't go all of it was because then there would be a side that clearly would have the best advantage. Similar to, according to this map, I would say that the Aldemar Dominion would have the best advantage if they had used all of the map because they have the smallest point to get to the central keeps,
yeah.
whereas Hammerfell or the Daggerfall Covenant and stuff like that would have a much smaller keep area to get to the six central keeps. Skyrim and Morrowind are pretty close. They'd probably be a little better, but yeah, AD would pretty much have a straight shot in the
See,
smallest
they
amount of
had to
land
make
track.
Cyrodiil like this upside down triangle because just to make it fair. Like, I mean,
Right.
I mean, sure, they might have left out a city and it's not the exact same size, but it had to be like this or else it just wouldn't have been fair to the other factions.
Oh yeah, everyone. Well, they did this in. To be honest, I like when things are unfair. I'm not gonna. I probably won't play the unfair side, but I hate when everything is a cookie cutter. When everything is identical, like it's the same. It's 200 steps from my keep to that keep, and it's the same if I'm on Ebonheart, Daggerfall, or Aldemar Dominion. It just isn't realistic in the sense of this is how the world actually is. A perfect example of this was the World of Warcraft Battleground Ultric Valley. The Alliance side had a distinct advantage because of how the map was shaped that it was just easier for them to win. And they never did change it, but a lot of people, a lot of the hardcore PvPers decided I'm not going to play this map because if I'm Horde, we're not going to win. We start off at a handicap, if you will. So in order to negate that as players, I can see why they made these changes. All right. Well, that is the differences from Elder Scrolls Online to Oblivion. I think it's pretty neat. And I actually, I'm bookmarking this site so that way I can try to visit them in game at some point. All right, moving on to the next bit of news, which again is not official news, but I think it kind of ties in with the next part. Rumors that unique weapons were being able to be fished up from different parts of the world. Did you see these?
I did. I saw people getting like veteran rank, like 7 items at level 12. It was pretty ridiculous.
Right. And I know, Thais, I showed you the pictures of the swords from fishing because I remember there was a spot in the sulfur pools where you could get a sword called True Flame, which of course was part of a unique set. And it was a veteran rank sword. And I showed it to her, I'm like, oh, look at this. And when I saw people saying, yeah, I'm fishing them out of the sulfur pools in Stone Falls, I kept telling her, I'm like, when we get there, all I'm doing is fishing.
That actually made me really sad because thus far I had been fishing and I hated it because the fish are nothing but trophies. You can't use them for anything else. But then when he showed that to me and said he's going to be fishing, I thought to myself, maybe I should start fishing. It sounds like a great idea.
Right. Well, moving on to the patch notes that were released right afterwards, the 1.01 patch notes. I'm not going to go through all the patch notes, but one of the big things that was already put on there was one of the patch notes under general. The first bullet tab was, you are no longer able to receive veteran rank rewards from fishing.
Yeah, that
I'm like, oh,
that
really?
was kind of necessary.
I know, but I wish they would have, like, I don't know, 5 hours away from questing in there in terms of when I got to the sulfur pools to when they removed it. I was like, really? Just, you couldn't have gave me another day and I could have been there and fished one up. But yes, no, they have indeed been removed. So I actually wrote that down when I saw that Reddit post. I thought it was really neat. I wanted to mention it on the stream and on the podcast. And then the day after the maintenance happened, the batch notes came up, and it's like, oh yeah, we removed the ability to fish up veteran rank swords out of sulfur pools. It's like, oh, really? You guys suck. All right. The official ESO soundtrack was released on 4/2. Did anyone else buy that almost immediately? Because I did.
No.
Well, Face did too, because technically she got it because I have it now. But yes, I pretty much immediately bought that the exact second that it came out. All right. I love the soundtracks. They are fantastic.
Generally, I'll pick out a song or two, before I I usually I won't buy a whole soundtrack or album. I'll just buy a song or two. Kind of like I bought Sovereign Guard and the dragon fighting song from Skyrim, and I didn't buy the rest of it.
Well, yeah, Sovereign Guard was awesome. Let's see here. All right, we're going to move on to the next bit of news, and I know we had a lot of news, actually, for the launch week. It's a little surprising. I'm pulling it up right now. The first Emperors were crowned in Cyrodiil. My goodness, by April 1st, there was already people claiming crowns. I'm going to actually read off some of these people because I thought it was kind of interesting. The North American mega server, the campaign Bloodthorn, the player was, oh dear goodness, Anselm Oda. Yeah, I know, right? Campaign Scourge, Lady Lightbright. Very nice name. I like that. Chrysamir is Jollibee. Oriel's Bow, Murdon the Vengeful. At least someone has an RP name in there. Skull Crusher, Dashavix the Kill Cult. All right, so much for the roleplay names. Dawnbreaker, it was Morkuth, and I think he was from Entropy Rising, if I remember correctly.
I would not be surprised if there was a few Entropy Rising guys in that list.
I think it was. I could be wrong, but I think it was. Goldbrand, Tomb Fox, and Hope's Fire Kip in the North American. They were all crowned Emperor. On the European mega server, we had on Chrysamir is Sulfur without an E. Oriel's Bow was Upsaito. Goldbrand was, this isn't even a name, it's GSKO. That's just like a bunch of syllables thrown in there. And Hope's Fire was, oh dear goodness, I'm not even, what is that? Tilu La Mini Macro? Dear goodness. I assume that was a Spanish player from Spain or something like that. That's what I would imagine. But yeah, so congrats to all those people for getting ranked to Emperor in the first week, actually first couple days. That's kind of neat, actually. All right, we're going to move on to the next part of news again. The Elder Scrolls Online released an infograph with some cool stats on it. I'm going to go through that real quick, just because this is kind of silly, but I like when they do these kind of stuff. So, the Elder Scrolls Online, over 5 million people registered for beta. That's equivalent to the population of Norway, or twice the amount of Big Macs eaten daily around the world.
Jeez.
I know. My goodness. Fat culture. All right. Weirdest offer for a beta key was firstborn child and a left arm.
I'll take the left arm.
Well, I wonder why the person offered their left arm versus their right arm.
Maybe he was a righty.
Maybe. How many character variations can players make? So many that we don't have room to show you the full number. Oh dear. So they give us a 5.0952187 to the 10th, or times 10 to the 58th power. That's very large. But again, this is every little variation. Like, you move that slider bar just one tick and you're different from other people. It sounds impressive, and indeed it is, but a lot of those variations I think will look pretty much identical to other people.
Yeah.
I mean, the variation will be so slight that you're not really going to notice much of the difference. Next up, they have 61 million items in the game, equivalent to the population of the UK mainland.
Well, see, their items in this game, they're kind of structured like Diablo, kind of. There's a lot of random items.
Well, yeah, there's every single, you gotta think about it like this. Every single iron dagger, you got a plain iron dagger, okay? Then you got an iron dagger with each of the traits on it. Then you have an iron dagger with each of the traits plus an enchantment. Then you have an iron dagger with each of the enchantments and any number of variations in between. So in reality, there's only a handful of items. It's just your iron dagger doesn't necessarily mean it's the same as my iron dagger. Because I could have a different trait and enchantment. We could each have the same enchantment, but mine's a different trait.
They're raiding our village.
Okay, next number they have is 40,656,000 different weapon variations in the game. Alrighty. If you say so. Alright. Now this one I find is actually kind of impressive. I wish I knew what some of the comparisons were to other games. And what they mean by non-player characters. Does that mean mobs that spawn or just NPCs?
What was that statistic again?
It's 10,202 non-player characters in the game. And it says it would take an average person 15 years to meet that many people. So they have over 10,000 non-player characters in the game.
It's
now I know the
probably variations. I imagine. I think.
Well, I know this is non-player characters are, like the NPCs in town and stuff like that. And I know there's a lot of NPCs in town, and there's a lot of NPCs. There's even NPCs you can't talk to. Like, you walk into a soldier camp, there's 20 soldiers you can't even talk to, but they're going around doing their daily thing. I find it hard to believe that they have 10,200 NPCs that are not monsters, that are not respawnable ads or something like that. But if they do, that's still very impressive. All right, now this one's kind of interesting, and this is one thing that I always remark about when playing an Elder Scrolls game, is the amount of time they took to write books. According to them, they have 2,235 books in the game, over 480,000 words. If you sat down and read every book time to time at an average rate, it would take 32 hours to read all the books together.
That is a lot of books.
That's a lot of books and a lot of information that most people just click through to see if they get a skill point.
That's very true.
I mean, I've been reading all the books. That's why I'm only level, 18 I think it is at the time?
Same. I have been reading every book I come across, and after every book, I think I say the same thing to Ag. I say, wow, I really like that book after every single book.
I was for sure you were going to say, when is The Lusty Argonian Maid Volume 10 coming out?
Hey, stay moist.
Stay moist.
All right. I still find that very impressive. That's a lot of work on the side of the developers and the creative team to put something in the game that 90% of the player base doesn't even read.
Well, you got to keep in mind, too, you can't just write a bunch of random junk because it has to make sense to the lore of the game.
Oh,
yeah. So, everything they write has to be made sure that it can be in the game.
And there's a lot of books in there that, I'm glad I'm taking the time to read everything because there's so much that I still don't know. And a few of the books were only about the religions of the races and just the religions, even though they all center around kind of the same gods, they all have different names and all the races think that they do something different. And It's just, again, after every book I go, wow, that was a great book.
Yeah, I see. That's the thing I love about Elder Scrolls. They make the world feel so alive. This is probably I was telling Thais the other day. This is my number two favorite fantasy world ever created. I'm a Tolkien fan. I love Lord of the Rings and I love the whole Middle Earth. That's the only one where I think there was probably more written about it than this one. So that's high praise to get it up there that close for me. But the fact these books are there, even if players don't read them, I think a lot of players in their minds go, I think it's cool that they write these books and that they're there. And if I wanted to, I could go read about the history of this world. I love it. I absolutely adore it. One of my favorite things is finding the lore books. Every time I see a lore book, I'm like, lore book, just so I can run over and grab it. All right, the next is arguably, and I'm going to say this, the most important stat. You would need to kill 119,050 mud crabs to reach level 50.
People are already attempting to do that.
I am making a character that its sole purpose is just to sit in town and kill mud crabs and reach level 50. That's all he's going to do. I will not level him in any way other than killing mud crabs. It's challenge accepted, ZeniMax. Challenge accepted. So that is... Oh, actually, there is more data. I did not scroll down far enough. All right. 8.13 miles of cable in the ZeniMax Online Studio International Circle Building, the equivalent of 40 Eiffel Towers, 143 soccer pitches. I have no idea what that is. Since May 2011, the ZeniMax Online team has drank 162,784 cups of coffee, the equivalent of 272 bathtubs. This equates to 5,087 pounds of coffee beans, or the weight of 5 polar bears, or 360 spider monkeys.
Spider monkeys? That's
stat.
very interesting. How many bananas is that?
Is this an average size spider monkey? Is it like the king spider monkey? Like I'm kind of curious how they got this information, but I thought it was a funny statistic.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to the next part. The new trailer, The Siege, released for launch day.
So good.
Krabby, why don't you tell us what you thought about it?
Oh, it was awesome. It was definitely... It made everything make sense, kind of, even though... Like, I guess there must be a time difference between the end of the second trailer and the beginning of the third one. Because the end of the second trailer, they're assaulting the zombies are assaulting the Imperial City. And in the beginning of the third one, the factions are assaulting the city. So there must have been some... I was a little confused by that, but the trailer itself, my goodness, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I love the trailer. Base, what did you think about the trailer, The Siege?
Oh, I adored it. I cannot wait for the next trailer to come out. With every new trailer that comes out, I am sitting on the edge of my seat, and I'm excited when the trailer starts, and then as soon as the trailer's over, I am incredibly sad because I want the next one right away, and I know that that's not how it works.
The only thing that stinks is it's probably going to be a big expansion release before we see another trailer like that. I mean, I was reading some statistic, or not, I was reading something now. I don't know if they used Blur Studios to make these trailers, but Blur Studios charges around $100,000 a minute per trailer, a CGI trailer. So, I mean, what, they have they have almost 90 minutes of trailers. That's almost $2 million right there. So, I mean...
They've been releasing them pretty quickly, though, because if you think about it, the last one was released, I don't know, I'll say a few days ago. Well, the one before that was released maybe 3 weeks before the game came out. So they're releasing them pretty quickly, which is good because everyone is so interested in what happens next in the story.
I think the next trailer is going to be an expansion, probably a year from now. I mean, there's really no need to have any more at the moment.
Anyone else notice that they finally showed Argonians in the trailer?
I
and
did.
I thought it was awesome.
They made the Argonians like really badass. It was awesome.
I feel that they made them too badass.
No,
when
they're supposed to be like
Argonian-
that.
Well, but look-wise, they looked fantastic. That I agree with. But the Argonian in the video, when he does his like bestial roar, I think it sounds too much. It just sounds too beastly. As a lizard person, I don't think he should have been able to growl so forcefully.
Yeah,
Kind of a small thing to be upset about, but that's how I feel about that growl.
I can
But
kind of.
it wasn't just one growl; it was a collective growl of the entire army of Argonians. That's fearsome.
No, but that's not what you see, though. It kind of pans into that one Argonian going "grar," and that was my interpretation of him doing a bestial roar. That is just what you see and hear him, and then everyone else joins in.
That's very intimidating, by the way.
That bestial roar was the one thing that made me proud to be with Argonians. I saw that, I'm like, yep, they're on our side. Mm-hmm. That's right. They're not all tree-loving hippies. Anyway, so...
Whoa, you better hold your tongue over there, buddy.
Tree-hugging hippies. We're going to get into that a little later in the show, but for now, we are going to move into the Elder Scrolls discussion topic. How has Elder Scrolls Online's mechanics translated from the older TES games? So what we're going to do here, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to throw out a topic of one of the mechanics of the Elder Scrolls Online, and we're going to go round the corner here, round the bend, to each of the hosts, and in your previous single-player Elder Scrolls experience, as of now, I think I'm the only one who's going to be able to pull all the way back to Daggerfall. Thais will probably be able to get Skyrim and Oblivion, and probably a little bit of Morrowind, and Krabby will probably only have Skyrim because he can never get any further before going into Skyrim again. But we're going to throw up a topic, and you're going to go through and tell us how you feel it translated and what the differences or similarities are between the older single-player games and the MMO. And I think this will definitely help because I actually got a couple Twitter comments at people asking, how is Elder Scrolls Online? How does it feel compared to Skyrim or compared to other games? And I think this would be kind of neat, not just hearing my perspective, but all of the host perspective. So to start off, we're going to make it easy. Thais, you're going to be the first one for each of the things, and then I'll go to Krabby and then myself. And chat room, always, if you guys have anything, please type it out. We'd like to hear it. First topic is combat. How do you feel the combat is compared to the single-player games? Thais, take it away.
It is pretty similar. It's similar enough for it to feel like Elder Scrolls combat, and yet it's different enough to give it its own aspects and playability while still being an Elder Scrolls game. And that is what I like the most about it. What I wish they had done is given us more choices for spells. Only having 5 slots just feels so very limited. But I can understand why they would do that when in other Elder Scrolls games it worked a little bit differently. You had access to everything at once, but you had to use your quick slots to bring it up, and it just worked differently. So I can see why they only chose 5. And in limiting you, it really makes you connect to your character and how you specifically want to develop your character's combat strategies and abilities. Now, the combat, I feel, relates most closely to Skyrim, with how your character moves, how the enemies move. It's very reminiscent of Skyrim, and that I enjoy. Skyrim, like everybody else on the planet, Skyrim was my favorite Elder Scrolls game. Tongue tied. So I like what they did with the combat. Oh, and I'm also enjoying the fact that you can switch between two different weapons. Currently, I have my destruction staff and my, what is it? The restoration staff.
Right. Okay. Awesome, Krabby. What do you think?
Combat wise, I think it's really fluid. I think for an MMO, the combat is very fun. I really enjoy the way the combat works in this game. In terms of, now see, it's funny that you say it feels like Skyrim dice, because to me it feels more like Oblivion. Only because in, like, for example, in Oblivion, you could actually keybind your spells and use them, and in Skyrim, you had to put them in your hands. So, I mean, to me, the combat is more like Oblivion than anything else. But I think the combat's great. I like it. I think it's good. I think it works good for this game as an Elder Scrolls title.
The only thing I have to say about the combat, you mentioned fluidity, and have you been using stabs at all?
I have been.
The only complaint I have is when you're doing a power attack with your staff. Especially I've noticed with the fire staff, is when you're trying to do a heavy attack and you hold the button down for a really long time, the character kind of winds up and then releases the heavy attack, when in fact you only have to hold it for a short period of time for it to build up the heavy attack.
You know, I noticed that too, actually. You know,
Yes.
now, do you still get full damage if? Oh, see, I need to test that out.
From what I've noticed, it still does the same amount of damage. Like, I've held it in and seen how much it chinked away at their health, and then I've only held it in for a long time, did the power attack, and saw how much it chinked away. It appears to do the same amount, but you don't have to hold it in until the character winds up and then releases the spell.
That's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to fix that at some point. But yeah, no, I noticed that actually. I wasn't sure if it was the full damage or not if you did it too early. But yeah, no, I definitely noticed that.
Yeah, bows are that way too. The difference between bow attacks and I don't know. When I was doing bow attacks, it seemed like I wanted to hold in because I felt like I had to draw, but if you tap, it shoots normal and then does a power attack if you hold. But I was doing hold almost all the time because, I don't know, it just seemed like I had to draw back. I wasn't used to the quick tap clicking for bow. I don't know. That's interesting. All right. As for myself, I actually agree with Krabby. I think it fits a little bit closer to Oblivion than it does Skyrim. Yes, I like the way it handles. I think the heavy attacks with two-handed swords fit a lot like Skyrim. It's got a lot of that heavy feel to it. I think I was talking to somebody who was doing two-handed and switched to dual wield because they felt it was too slow. But in reality, it's very realistic when you're swinging around. I know if you guys are really into this or really know, most great swords weigh 4 to 6 pounds, depending on the user and how it's made. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but you try swinging around 4 or 6 pounds to steel, just swinging around, you get tired fast. I have a lot of real swords here. I collect them, and I do blacksmithing in real life as well, as a hobby. And they weigh roughly, the lower end is 4 pounds is general. The bigger ones are about 6. And the average sword, the one-handed and bastard swords, are said to be about 2 pounds, and you don't want it much heavier than that, or else it becomes a cleaver, and you can't really work with it well, and it does get tiring. But yeah, I love when you swing and you're like doing a power attack. Your character is committed. When that sword is over your head, you can't just stop. You've got 6 pounds of steel coming down, and you're holding on to it, and you do not stop, and I love it. But the actual mechanics in terms of it almost plays identical to Oblivion in that they didn't. In Skyrim was the first one that made you put spells in your hands. In Morrowind, in Oblivion, and Daggerfall and Arena was the same way. You actually quick slotted a spell, and then you tapped a spell key to cast. In Oblivion, by default, I think it was C to cast. So you could have a sword and shield on your hands and still cast spells by hitting C, the quick slot. So it's very similar. Oblivion has this exact play style, but they only allowed you to have one ability. Now you can have 5 plus a quick slot for your ultimate stuff like that. You could quick slot them and macro them in Skyrim too by assigning numbers and stuff like that to do abilities. But it actually plays more like Oblivion with casting spells by tapping it, having the weapons and having a casting key. So I definitely agree it's closer to Oblivion than Skyrim. Oh, okay. We actually have a question in chat that I'm going to throw in here. Do you guys think the game looks better than Skyrim? Ace, go first.
I am very excited to answer this. The world around your character, I feel, in some ways looks better than Skyrim. But when it comes to character models in ESO, I feel that the character models in ESO are horrible.
That I would agree with.
The world is just so pretty, but the character models just make me want to, punt kittens across fences. That is how bad the character models are. When they're hunched over and they're running and their arms are doing this, curled up wave thing, and just how your arm. I understand why the armor looks like it's painted on, but have you ever looked at a Breton wearing spaulders? They're just kind of floating up around their ears, and their hands are kind of bent at the wrists in these weird, angle, and the fingers are just... The character models are atrocious. I can't stand them.
I didn't see any of this.
My Breton's face looks good. I took a long time making sure her face looked good, but her face still does not match her body. And it's just... The Skyrim character models are so much better looking. It actually looks like you're wearing the armor. The hands look good, the hair looks good, and the world in Skyrim is just absolutely gorgeous, even without mods.
Krabby, what do you think?
Yeah, I gotta admit, I'm probably biased as well, because when I play Skyrim, I have over 150 mods, and I slam as many graphics mods as I can. And, my Skyrim looked beautiful. So,
I think you're gonna have to take out unmodded Skyrim.
Yeah.
We're gonna say that first, because...
Unmodded Skyrim, I want to say this is probably on par. The environment in this game is definitely better than unmodded Skyrim, I feel. The character models aren't bad. The character animations are pretty One thing this game does better than Skyrim, hands down, is the lighting effects. The lighting effects in this game are unbelievable. It's in even on the stream right now, you can see this orb. Actually, it's not even nighttime yet. But if you have the mage light, you can actually see the light around your character swirling around it. It's crazy. Stuff like that, Skyrim had it, but it wasn't very good looking. This game does the lighting really well.
I agree. The lighting... I'm going to go back to vanilla Skyrim. The world looks much better than the environment in Skyrim.
Wait, say that again? You just said vanilla Skyrim twice.
I did. I'm sorry. ESO, the world in ESO is much better than the world in vanilla Skyrim. Things are clearer, smoother. It looks like the poly count is a little higher. because all the edges are a little smoother. Everything's a little crisper. The god rays. Oh my goodness, the god rays. If you guys have been to the TalesOfTamriel.com and went to the gallery, you'll see my obsession with god rays, because that's pretty much all there is in the gallery is me coming up over a hill and being blasted in the face with a god ray.
I'll stop running for a second and look behind me. An ag standing on some rock looking off in the distance at whatever, I can't tell. And he's just standing there. And I'm looking at his character in game, and then I'm looking at him sitting in his chair, and he's got this goofy look on his face, just staring at the god rays, spamming his screenshot button, and I just, face desk.
It's gorgeous. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So, character models. I think the faces they're a different style than Skyrim was ultra realistic. I actually don't think the characters looked. Well, here it is. I don't think the characters looked as good in Skyrim as they do here from the face up, because the face up, they were very realistic. You saw pockmarks, and I mean that's kind of cool if you want to see that. This has a smoother feel to it. In appearance, I think they look better. Not as realistic, but look better. I don't know what you're seeing with character models. I think they look good.
I don't know. The character models.
I think her arms. She must have a disease, or so she's like her wrists are twisted in a weird. I think she's got like spina bifida or something like that.
That's horrible.
The next time you're looking at your character, get as close. Actually, wait a minute. All right, look. Are you looking here? Okay.
To the people on the podcast, she's showing me her characters on her screen.
I thought she was showing you her arms in real life.
Yeah.
Can you see my arms in real life? Can you just look at these?
If you look at her arm, her forearm looks great. But when you look at her hand, for some reason, it's got this like weird jutting angle where the forearm meets the hand, where the wrist is, and it's just kind of bent backwards, and the hands are all veiny, and the fingers are just like the hand looks too small for the body.
Why that is? Well, you could have fixed that. It's your fault, because there's a hand slider.
There is a hand
That's why
slider.
it's connected.
Look, but even that one's a strange angle. It's just, I don't know, the character models, I feel like they could have done better.
I think my wife is crazy, and if your hands are too small, that's your fault. There is a hand slider, and you didn't touch it.
Okay, so instead of having unearthly, skinny, veiny hands, I can have plump sausages that are still jutting out incorrectly at the wrist angle. Oh yeah, it all makes sense.
Maybe your character broke her wrist somewhere, and now she has a deformity, and she's very self-conscious about it. Way to go. You just made her feel bad.
Way to go.
That's the unsensitive one to poor Elder Scrolls Online characters with physical deformities. Wow. You've heard it here first. All right. Well, I think we beat that one. There was another question. I'm going to save that one for later. IMCXRLL. I don't even think that's a word. But I'm going to save that one for later. Next up, travel. How you think travel is done? Ace.
I have to say that I love travel in Oblivion because I'm the person who jumped everywhere to try and get up the athletic skill. So if I was walking, it didn't matter where I was walking to. It could have been 400 miles to the north. I jumped the entire way. Now, travel in ESO, they really, really make it so that you want to walk everywhere. And I like that. Even in one of the loading screens, it even says, pick a direction and just walk. You never know what you'll find. Now, it's not word for word. I can't recall exactly what it said, but that is what one of the loading screens said. So it makes you want to travel across the world. And I feel like that reminds me more of Oblivion than Skyrim.
I was referring more to like fast travel systems or ways of getting around. How do you think the travel system is in ESO compared to other games? I had to let you finish your speech though first because I thought it was still cool.
Well then I'd have to say it reminds me most of Skyrim.
Well, I mean, it's the exact
Because
same as every other game, isn't it?
yeah.
No,
Well,
actually, it's not.
Didn't Oblivion have the same fast travel as Skyrim and this?
But the only one who did not, this one doesn't have the same fast
Yeah,
travel
no,
as
the
Skyrim.
waypoint system. I just thought of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I fast travel so much not using the waypoints that I forget they're even there sometimes.
The closest game I think this has for a game would actually be Morrowind. Morrowind didn't have a fast travel system in that respect. It had silt striders that you could go to and you could pick different towns, kind of like waypoints, but you couldn't just click on a cave you found and teleport. And I think that's the travel is a little different. It actually steals a mechanic from Morrowind in the fact that you can't unlock a cave and teleport to it.
that's right, which is what you could do in Skyrim. So I retract my statement. Skyrim's travel let you go anywhere just by clicking on anything. So then I'd have to say it would be more like Oblivion to me. I don't have a lot of experience with Morrowind, so I don't remember all those mechanics. So my response would be Oblivion.
Right. Yeah, Morrowind was actually one of the first ones that didn't have that kind of fast travel system. It was weird because even Daggerfall and Arena had a type of fast travel, and Daggerfall actually had a very unique. You actually had to pay gold, which is actually similar to this to fast travel. But you got a questionnaire when you went through, going, okay, you are going to fast travel to this city. What would you like to do? Would you like to camp out? Would you like to stay in inns? Would you like to take a cart? Would you like to take a horse? Would you like to take a ride? And it would depend on what you chose was how much it would cost. Because if you stayed in inns, of course, it would take you a little, cost you a little more. But yes, they actually charged you based on how quickly you wanted to get there. And I think in Daggerfall, if I remember correctly, and I could be totally wrong on this because it's been a long time since I played, but there was certain quests and stuff that had certain time limits to complete. Like you had to get to these locations within X amount of time. So when you fast travel and had to select days, the way you traveled actually mattered. And I could be wrong. It's been a long time. But for some odd reason, I feel like that's there. Anyone else have anything to say about travel?
Nope.
All right. Oh, cool. And we actually have our Vladar is in the chat now talking. Everyone can say hi to him. He's going to be streaming some PvP after our show. So that's exciting. All right. We're going to move on to the next thing. The map style and the compass. How do you guys feel? What do you think how does it work?
Right off the bat, Skyrim. I cannot think of ESO's compass without thinking of Skyrim. It's just everything about it just in my head rings Skyrim, 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 Skyrim. I have no other opinion, just Skyrim.
Krabby, what do you think?
Yeah. It looks a lot like Skyrim. I mean, I look at the map now, like it's classic, like... Well, it's a lot like like the icons are a lot like Skyrim, where they're dark and then outlined white. But the map itself is more like Oblivion, because Skyrim's map was 3D and Oblivion's map was paper. This is kind of like a high-quality paper map. So,
I agree.
Yeah,
Oh, good point.
it's not exactly like any other game, but I think it's excellent. I think it's an excellent map. I love looking at it.
I'm going to have to agree with Krabby on this. It's a mixture between map styles of Oblivion and the compass and icons of Skyrim. I actually think it also looks a little bit like Morrowind. Morrowind had this kind of map style, albeit they had it that you didn't really see the map. You had fog of war, and as you explored, it unlocked parts of the map for you. So that's kind of neat, and that's how I feel it's working. The next step, stats. How stats are handled. Base, you're up.
Now this one's a little harder for me. I think that the way the stats are in ESO is completely different than all the other ESO games. Like, I can't really say that I think it's more like this other game or this other, Elder Scrolls game. I feel like this is one of the aspects that is all ESO, because they just give you so many stats. And it's an MMO. There's more stats that you have to have when you're in an MMO setting.
Krabby, what do you think?
Well, it's funny. I mean, compare Skyrim and Oblivion. Leveling in those games is vastly different from each other. You know, I mean, like, every Elder Scrolls game is very different. If I had to compare this to any of them, I would say you've got your typical health, magicka, stamina that you can put points into from Skyrim. The whole trait system, I guess, might be a little like Skyrim, but not really. It's every Elder Scrolls game does progression differently character-wise, so I can't really compare it to anything I can't think of.
I can't say it's any one of the games. The stats itself, like the stat points you get, the health, stamina, magicka, are direct from Skyrim. But the extra stats, the stamina recovery and things like that, are, I think it actually fits a lot to Daggerfall and Morrowind. Morrowind and Daggerfall had different, like, those games had different stats, and it kind of evolved into Oblivion, where they did away with a couple stats they had in Morrowind, but you still had the strength and stuff like that. This game doesn't really do that, but when you increase your stats, like health, it automatically upgrades your health and a little bit in health regeneration and stamina. So they kind of add in different ways, and then you augment with gear. But those extra stats are closer to the older RPG style of games, because if I remember correctly, Daggerfall, Arena, and Morrowind had a skill called Critical Strike, which you actually, as you leveled up, your Critical Strike rating went up. Morrowind was closer to a MMO in terms of the the old school MMOs with the stat styles, than the current Skyrim or Oblivion or anything of that nature. So I think it's more of a hybrid kind of. They took the trait system from Skyrim, so they did away with the strength, the dexterity, the constitution, the intelligence, and the willpower, but they tied in the secondary stats closer to that of Morrowind and Daggerfall and Arena, the earlier games. I can't remember if Oblivion had quite that many stats, but yeah. All right, next up, Dark Anchor, Dark Fissures. Does this remind you about anything? Krabby, why don't you go first?
So Dark Anchors remind me of Oblivion Gates, in a sense that, in an RP sense, you have a Daedric Prince that wants to invade Tamriel, so he's going to use these. In a mechanic sense, they don't really remind me of anything. In Oblivion, you went inside the Oblivion gates to shut them down. In this, you have to stop the cultists and the summoned Daedra. So I mean, it's for the Elder Scrolls games, it's fairly unique, I guess.
Okay, base.
Now these on their own, the anchors and the dark fissures and trying to be pulled into Cold Harbor, are their own facet, but what it strongly reminds me of is dragons in Skyrim. Because you're walking across the land. I'm doing my running motion over here. You're running across the land in Skyrim, and then, you hear...
Her running motion looks an awful lot like the character models in Skyrim. So that's apparent, or in Elder Scrolls, that's how she runs. So
you're running across the land in
I think her arms,
Skyrim.
her hands are twitched in a weird area.
You know what? So you're jogging awkwardly across the land in Skyrim, and you hear that roar, just roar, and it's just all of a sudden this dragon comes out of nowhere and starts swooping around the air above you, and you have that oh crap moment as it's about to land or shoot fire at your toes, and that's what it strongly reminds me of. Because when a dark anchor hits, or you hear the noise of that dark fissure about to open, it's very much like when that dragon lets out that initial roar, letting you know that it's there. And then you're tasked with finding out what kind of dragon it is. Is it one of, the green dragons where it dies pretty easily? Is it one of those, oh gosh, what is that really hard dragon?
Blood dragons?
Oh, yes, the blood dragon, where you pretty much have to die 6 times in a row before you can figure out how you're supposed to just kill this stupid blood dragon. The only difference between the Dark Fissures and the Dark Anchors and the dragons is that when the dragon dies, you always had great rewards. You always had the dragon scales and the dragon bones, and there was always all kinds of money, and there was all kinds of things you could find miraculously stored inside this dead dragon. Whereas the Fissures and the Anchors, they don't really give you much except for the thrill of beating it and the experience.
Well, you get achievements. I mean,
Yeah,
I love
it's its
achievements.
own form of
Like, I totally
For me, that's
love
a
it.
form of reward.
Exactly.
I love achievements.
I see it an
I
achievement, and
agree
I'm
on
like,
that.
oh, yeah.
But I mean, in terms of, physical rewards, armor or weapons
Yeah,
or
no, I can
that kind
see
of
that.
thing.
Well, I mean, you get a good amount of experience, I suppose.
I wonder what that's going to attribute to once you're already 50 or veteran rank 10.
Well,
or
you might
higher,
not go back to, like the one in Deshawn to do those when you're level 50. You'd probably do the ones in the
no,
other
but
zones.
Yeah, but if they still reward experience, unless it goes up your veteran rank, which I'm sure it will, but what's the point of doing them after that? I agree with her. I
Yeah.
kind of hope there's a little bit of a reward added. I'm still hoping for rare crafting materials or tempers. Like, you can only get them from there.
I'm hoping for after you defeat a Dark Anchor that
Stay tuned. This is a regularly scheduled break.
Sorry about that. I can't even, not even sure what I was saying. I'm kind of hoping that after you defeat a Dark Anchor, a chest will spawn that anyone can collect from this chest. Doesn't have to be a lot, just some type of reward for having finished the Dark Anchor. Sometimes make it something good, sometimes make it something bad. I love the element of randomness when it comes to those types of rewards.
I agree. Extra rewards are definitely helpful. All right, we're gonna, PvP. Yeah, I did throw that one in there. Anything like the other games?
Yeah.
Yeah, that multiplayer Skyrim.
Yeah. No. PvP.
No, I can't think of anything. The only thing I can think of is when a lot of the towns change sometimes in Skyrim when they were going through one event through another. And the only thing I can think of for some reason when I think of PvP in another ES game would be the destruction of Whiterun when that happens and just the buildings are falling apart and there's all kinds of, barricades set up, but I know that in no way, relates to PvP and ESO.
You want me to help you out here, guys? This is what it is. You want to simulate the solo Cyrodiillic experience, go into Skyrim, steal everything in front of everybody, and then tell the guards to flip off when they try to arrest you, and that's PvP in Cyrodiil solo, as all the guards come rushing you.
But you have to do it in Markarth, where there's nothing but stone around you. There's millions of guards because the mine is right there, and there's pretty much no other way to get out. It's just, if you're going to do that, do it in Markarth. I strongly suggest trying it at least once, because it's a lot of fun trying to escape Markarth.
I had to throw that one in there for fun because I specifically wanted to say that. All right, next up, the crafting and gathering. I think this one will be fun. I'm gonna go first on this one. Crafting. See, other than spell crafting in Oblivion, and I guess there was some early crafting in all the games, at least in Alchemy. But I only seem to remember blacksmithing being a thing in Skyrim. Like potions and stuff were something you could make in all the games, but I don't remember blacksmithing being in any of the other games. I could be wrong. Um, but as I love, did I mention love? Love the crafting systems in Elder Scrolls Online. They're similar a little bit. Like the interface kind of feels familiar to Skyrim, and that's how the interface looks. For blacksmithing, for alchemy, it looks the same for all of them. You got 4 slots or 3 slots. You put your solvent, like your waters, and then you put your 2 plants. They only let you do 2, not 3, and mix them together and hope you get something good. That's pretty much the same. But the crafting, the blacksmithing, I like how they added that there's different tiers and different levels of all the different tiers. You get